Welcome to WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. It's your old pal Jake, and hello to AC. Good to see you, my friend. Hello to Matt, talking to us from the road. I just scrambled to get going tonight. I've been more or less away from the channel with any sort of regularity for like a couple of weeks. Delighted to be jumping back to it. Let's talk about minor gripes. Not thrilled with this zipper. Not thrilled at all. It's like it sneaks. Well, maybe I do like it. It sneaks under that lip right there. All right, I guess I like it. Also, not thrilled with my own ability to do tech stuff, but I've been granted a chance to work on it as I've been getting home too late to stream and finding myself with nothing to do before bed but work on the minor details I have put off for 1 year. Oh, boy. Well, in keeping with catching up with stuff I have intended to do and yet not, we got a ton of viewer suggestions. Some really good content on our Discord that AC and Foxxxy and Pink and LT9K and the whole gang have been tossing in there. Well, we're going to look at it. We're going to look at it because I enjoy that stuff quite a bit. I find I tend to get into maybe not a rut in such a bad way, but a bit of a rut, a habit, let's call it, of just watching the same 4 or 5 presenters, unless I turn to y'all. So that's what we're doing tonight. I can't wait. Also want to work out with you guys what it is you enjoy and don't enjoy about this about turning this channel into a proper business. Again, that's something I've put off, but here's the deal. When I started this thing, I basically only had one rule that I plan to keep forever and ever, which is it must pay for itself. Now, the easy way to do that is exist only on the internet and don't hire employees or anything like that, obviously, because they can't afford that stuff. Really, it's just a series of subscriptions that I need to keep up with. Got to be able to pay for a website. Got to be able to pay for any equipment I use, but it's here already, so that's done. It's not terribly difficult, but it does mean there needs to be a couple of $100 guaranteed to come in every month because this stuff does add up. The minor expenses of it. So far, we've been able to do that. Not once you get monetized. I cannot stress this enough to folks. Once you get monetized, we now live in a society or in a technological era, let's say, where it's not terribly difficult to make such a thing a self-sustaining hobby. Basically, you don't have to put any money into it. It generates its own. Yada yada yada. But I don't want to, I don't want to exist forever as a small group of friends because as fun as it is hanging out with you guys, there's nothing that stops us from continuing to do that as we turn WYCD into a more active political force. I want this thing to start growing, but in order to grow, it has to pay for itself. I can't, for example, purchase ads with my own money. Not just on general principle, but because that doesn't exist. I'm, I'm taking acting jobs, and I'm supposed to say that actually, but all right, fine. I guess I haven't specified who. Yeah, I'm taking like acting jobs and what have you to pay the rent. So I've got to make probably not major changes, but some changes. I've got to dedicate like a day to making that money, and I find that the people whose opinion I care to listen to the most is you, the audience, especially the audience that's here now in the halcyon days, which is a phrase I took from the Venture Brothers, but I don't actually know what it means. I think it means early days. In these fun early days where there's not much consequence, and I can occasionally go on a rant and say really vicious things and then say, no, that's not wise, and get away with it. I respect your opinions, and I don't want to grow this channel in a way that will turn you guys off to it, because you guys represent, in my opinion, the core audience. You guys are the heart of what I always want this show, this channel, frankly, to be about. But I differentiate there between show and channel because there is a significant difference. For example, do you like the idea of other people having shows on this channel? Like if I dedicated 1 day a week to presenting somebody else's content. If somebody, like, say, and I haven't talked to this person, don't get excited, but like if Paul Agia, the broadcaster who discusses Christianity because he is a former Christian and has an interest there, if he had a wild idea that he wanted to try out, would you guys be interested in seeing it premiere on this channel? Things like that. Things like that. If you guys have, obviously, content suggestions, you can drop it in the Discord, or you can email me, or you can just tell me here in the comments, of course. But I am now opening up my mind, I guess, my willingness to do things other than just this show on the channel, in the interest of generating more money. Also, how do you guys feel about advertisers? On the one hand, I inherently don't like the idea of being reliant on anybody, any company I'm aware of, for money, because I don't want to have even a perceived conflict of interest. On the other hand, I like the idea that the word of a leftist show has more weight than a centrist or a righty show, you know? I like the fact that Just Coffee has a good reputation because it has been the longest advertiser on the Majority Report. I don't see anything wrong with monetizing in that way. It does make me feel uncomfortable. I guess I'm just saying I don't have a specific argument against it, but I don't like it. It's just a gut feeling, you know? Things like that. So that'll be part of this show. I'll be open to suggestions from y'all. If anything comes to mind, I'll talk to y'all about it. And we're going to go through content suggestions from you guys, which we have queued up already. But let's say hi to the gang. Aaron W. gifted 1 What You Can Do memberships. Thank you so much, my friend. Thank you very much. Donald James X. That's why I'm a member here. I got you sub on Flip, Jake. Do you have a Patreon? I don't. I have a Ko-fi. K-O-F-I. I should be putting that in the link every time. So I'll do that now. Here it is. Hell, I'll pin it. It's I'm glad you like the way we've done this. I consider you guys the North Star on this. Dominico, I love that this channel has interaction. That's what I can't stand about mainstream media. Yeah, I think a lot of folks fail to take advantage of the primary benefit to YouTube. Jules T, Cat, you here, love? If BCat K is here, hello to you. She is a what do you call it? A regular in the circles that I run in, so I would be honored. Autumn Leaves with the very kind €2. Thank you. I found you, Soul Life. All right, thank you so much, Autumn Leaves. FG, no shame in taking sponsorships from decent organizations. Yeah, let's start with that. Here's what I was thinking. If I were to take sponsorships, I think there'd be ones that I would outright, deny. The one I love to use as an example is Black Rifle Coffee or Raid Shadow Legends is obnoxious, but it's not immoral. But an obviously evil organization, I would outright deny. But if, I'm not going to know all the things organizations do. So what if we did polls on whether or not I could take an advertiser, or we had some manner of having the audience vote on whether we should keep an advertiser or not. I think if we agreed to a contract, like say they paid us, I'm going not off YouTube numbers. I've never done such a thing on YouTube. But let's go off radio numbers. Let's say it was a contract where they said, all right, we'll give you $5,000 and you have to play 100 ads no later than this time. So between now and this time, 100 ads, $5,000. I would have to fulfill that. But I think we could vote to cancel it after or not renew after. What we could not do is cancel it right in the middle, because we'd be breaking a contract at that point. Do you guys like that idea? I think that's a fair way of going about it. And again, I stress we're deciding this before it's relevant, so that we're not knee deep in it and then discovering we're doing it wrong. Not like you're going to see something next week. Hey fam, says Anticorporatus, sorry, am home, was cooking. What are you cooking, Anticorporatus? Let me live vicariously through you. Ooh, public utility union drive for content creators. Who would we be unionizing against, though? Ah, Donald James X, damn it, Jake, I don't have PayPal. I was about to sign up. Well, no worries. Thank you for the very kind $5. I'll tell you, every time you donate through YouTube, it simultaneously is like advertisement for WYCD. It boosts us in the algorithm when they see financial transactions happening. So that is my preferred way. I think it kills two birds with one stone, and it also is very easy for me to monitor. So thank you. Oh my God, Anticorporatus pot roast. I love it. Public utility. Tech not sees. Gotcha. Okay. Autumn Leaves. Anticorporatus is a mod. I'll be on my best behavior. You better. He doesn't take no guff. Soul Life. As soon as I get my raise, that turns $3 to $5 worth of income I'll gift. Well, thank you. Jules T. Jeff, can you see my donation? Jeff. Let's see. Can I see your donation? Yes! Oh, thank you very much, Jules T. With the very kind $4 super chat. This is because Soul Life called us cheap, LMAO. Soul Life, keep busting their chops. It's working. Mars Falcon, when you met the anti-corporatist, he was but a learner, Autumn Leaves. Here he is the master. I'm at Mars Falcon, I've done you dirty. I'm adding you to the description. Now you're in the description. All right. Let's jump in to the actual content. Let's get down to it. The hypothetical money's fantastic to talk about, but Foxxxy suggested we do something by Brian Tyler Cohen. I want to have a gander. You would think that would mean I'd be ready for the transition. Now I am. Wicked Foxy Dragon recommended this from her future ex-husband, Brian Tyler Cohen. It's a video that I actually haven't seen, but I think he's talking to Mark Elias, which means I'm going to be interested. The general idea here is that the Supreme Court, according to Brian Tyler Cohen, has dropped some bad news for the Republicans, which is, of course, great news for democracy. Let's find out what he's talking about.
This is Democracy Watch. So, Mark, we've got some rare good news from the courts in a few very red states. But first, before we start, I want to note that this is our 100th episode of Democracy Watch. So, first off, let me just say to the viewers, thank you for caring about this stuff. No one in the mainstream media covers even 1/100th of this stuff because I think they wrongly assume that people don't care. But you all...
I do want to say, if we get to some milestone that I have yet to consider, like if we get to our 5,000th episode or something like that, I would like to do a self-sabotaging non-thank you. Let me just start by saying, F you viewers, this was in spite of you. Just a really self-destructive pitch. It would be a refreshing surprise to see a host arrogantly ruining everything they built. But no, congratulations to Brian Tyler Cohen and Mark Elias for 100 episodes of a very informative show. If you're not familiar with Brian Tyler Cohen's channel, he's a little bit like Midas Touch in that he gets really useful legal experts on. Like a lot of time people have guests on with all kinds of letter hacks, a perfect example. All kinds of expertise. So like anytime you watch them, or another great one, the Majority Report. Wide variety of experts, but there are some channels which have these I don't know what you'd call them, regular guest hosts. I'm not sure what the name. I guess co-host. Fine, there it is. That have a specific expertise. Brian Tyler Cohen did a good job of securing two really interesting ones in the form of Brian Elias, who has lost some weight lately. Congratulations. Or Mark Elias, excuse me. And Glenn Kirshner. So you get a lot of really good legal takes. I think it's interesting, and those two are doing a good job of informing people generally. All right, let's get to the actual meat here.
All watching are a testament to the fact that they do. The first 99 episodes of this series got 60 million views. So that is 60 million reasons to push back against what the mainstream media is thinking on this issue. And Mark, I know that I can speak on behalf of everybody watching. Thank you for the work that you do. So much of what you and your team do to protect democracy doesn't get the recognition that it deserves.
He's not going to get it here either because I don't think Cohen's going to explain it. I will. First of all, that was ballsy of Cohen. He himself has been hired by mainstream media recently. He was working with MSNBC for a while. I'm not sure if he still is, but it's ballsy of him to give a little punch there. What Mark Elias does, he basically fights in court through an organization he founded for voter rights. That's why Cohen's thanking him.
deserves, but the impact that you guys are having can't be overstated. If and when our democracy survives past November of 2024, it'll be in large part thanks to you and your team. So again, thank you for the work that you're doing, and also for taking time to speak directly to so many people here on YouTube. We're all better informed because of you, and we're all beyond appreciative that we've got you and Elias Law Group and Democracy Docket on our side, and also that you haven't taken up Lou Dobbs on his offer to switch sides for $500 million.
No, but I am glad that you had the foresight to reach out to me when you had a vision for this, and everyone ought to be clear. Brian is a visionary when it comes to making sure people understand the stakes around democracy, not just in this series, but in all of the series. And I hope everyone subscribes to all of the programming that he puts out. But Brian, when you approached me, I didn't see it at first, but you were entirely right. There is no place for people to go and get good, reliable, day in, week out information about what is happening to democracy in courts, which is one of the main battlefields of democracy. I mean, if there's one thing we learned after 2020, it is that the courts play such a central role in free and fair elections and in ensuring that we have a peaceful transfer of power in democracy. And it was really your vision that created this, and I will deeply educate.
Again, we've got some rare good news here from the courts in some very red states. So, Mark, walk us through what just happened in the Montana Supreme Court first.
Yeah, so this is an amazing story, and I really think it's one of the underreported stories in the mainstream media. The Montana Supreme Court struck down not one, not two, not three, but 4 voter suppression laws in one ruling, violating that all 4 of them violated the state's constitution. This included eliminating election day registration, eliminating student IDs as acceptable forms of ID to vote, prohibiting mailing ballots to new voters who are eligible to vote on election day but are not yet 2018, banning ballot collection, which is a lifeline for Native American voters in the states who live on reservations. When we talk about banning ballot collection, when Republicans talk about banning ballot collection, or what they call ballot harvesting, in a state like Montana, what they are saying is they don't want Native Americans to vote. And this is not just a landmark victory for the voters of Montana. It is a landmark case in which the Montana Supreme Court applied heightened scrutiny to laws that restrict voting rights. It is a model opinion that courts around the country can look at. And I'd be remiss if I didn't point out that there is a critical U.S. Senate race. It is likely that the day after the election, we will wake up trying to figure out who controls the U.S. Senate, and we will want.
I'll let him finish the point. Once
the states we'll be looking at is whether John Tester was reelected from the great state of Montana. And this.
All right. So I'm not, let me just be clear. This is purely opinion. I don't have a chart in front of me to speak to this. It's just from my lived experience in the Midwest. I've noticed that more and more throughout my lifetime, states in the Midwest have become reliant on voter suppression to stay red. When you see those maps and you're like, good God, how is the middle of the country red so often? If you look at the rules for voting in those states, where you don't think of them as being particularly Republican, and yet they wind up like Ohio, for example, even though it's got some rather dastardly Republican presence. But, my own state, Michigan, was a great example of that. It was voting red consistently for its state legislature, but it would vote, flip of a coin, red or blue, for the president. It was voter suppression laws. Republicans can't stand a fair fight because they are not, frankly, good for their constituents. That often comes to light. In a fair fight, they tend to lose. They are losers deep down. When we see the courts make a decision like this in Montana, especially in an election year, especially so close to an election, where it doesn't give the Republican Party there time to come up with new ways to over voters. It bodes extremely well for November. Now, I say this all the time, bears repeating. I'm going to be supporting the idea of voting for Biden as the president, not because I think he deserves it, but because I think it's necessary as a part of a larger strategy. But I also want to say, always with that, it is more important by a wide margin that we have a blue House and a blue Senate if we intend to get real change done. If we fail in that regard, if we don't take the House and the Senate, everything else we do is going to be delaying tactics and defensive tactics for 2 more years until we will have another opportunity to take the House and Senate. And it will be harder then, because the folks that we tend to ally with don't tend to vote in off-year elections, as they're called. This ruling that he's talking about makes it much more likely that we're going to get a blue senator out of Montana. That's huge. The Senate's always going to be harder for progressives to get a presence in. Always. So this is good. Frankly, we just need Democrats in the Senate. Where the true, in my opinion, where the true progressive pushes are going to happen, it's going to be from the House. And that's where we're going to hopefully get progressive bills written and then use social pressure if we have a blue Senate full of centrist Dems to get it passed. So basically, we're going to need to get a couple of real strong progressives like Miguel Tlaib in the House. They are going to hopefully propose legislation that we're all behind, and then when it gets to the Senate to be voted upon in the week leading up to the vote or the days leading up to the vote, we're going to have to be vocal about the fact that we know that vote is coming and that we are paying attention. That way, if we have a bunch of centrist Dems, they're going to be too nervous to say no to it. That's how that's going to work. So this bodes extraordinarily well for us having that opportunity in the near future. Let's see.
This ruling will be integral to the ability of John Tester to be able to win, of young voters, of college voters, of Native American voters being able to participate in the electoral process.
Well, on the topic of issues coming out of the courts that are going to have major political implications, can you discuss the pending abortion referendum that will likely appear on the November ballot?
Yeah. So look, I mean, I think this is, I'm sure you've covered this across your channels. The kryptonite of the Republican Party is the issue of abortion. The thing they have not been able to figure out is what to do when abortion in any way, shape, or form is on the ballot. Even in the recent election where IVF was a sort of a side issue, you saw a Democrat win a state legislative race, in a deeply red district, in a deeply red state. In Florida, it's going to be on the ballot. In Montana, it will be on the ballot. In Nevada, it will almost certainly be on the ballot. And Republicans have no answer to this. They fought for decades to get a Supreme Court to overturn a woman's right to control her own body and have access to safe abortion care. And now they are reaping this at the ballot box, and it will play a critical role in several states in 2024.
I'm going to ask you to put your...
Let's talk about that for a second before they move on, because I don't think that's when I hear people talking about this, I don't usually hear them explaining why. So when they say abortion's on the ballot, they mean that there's often going to be... Lord. All right, one second. Sorry about that. I have a Jack Russell Terrier who I sat unwisely on my desk to apply ear medication to. That has affected the hair content of my microphone. When they say it's going to be on the ballot, they mean there's going to be ballot measures regarding it, or sometimes when they say it, they mean there are candidates who have said specifically that they are going to take action regarding abortion, either codifying a right to it into state law or voting to take it away from everybody. Think back to the shows we did about how Michigan flipped its state House and Senate. It began with weed being on the ballot. And the sort of people who were willing to come out to vote for weed being legal also happened to be the sort of people who would half-assedly support left-leaning candidates. They'd be like, well, I wouldn't have come out to vote at all because I don't like these people. But since I'm here, I'm going to vote straight ticket Democrat and move on with my life. So I came here to say yes to weed, straight ticket Democrat. I don't know who any of these people are, but I know broadly what the Democrats are all about, and I know broadly what the Republicans are all about. Then I move on with my life. The result of that was a massive victory for the Democrats. It's going to be the same thing with abortion. These people, a lot of whom will be suffering because of decisions made by Republicans, will be coming out to vote on that issue. And incidentally, once they're there, straight ticket one party or the other. And I just don't see there being a lot of folks that are like, yeah, I came out to really, really, really make sure that my daughter has to have her rapist baby. There's not going to be a lot of that. There's going to be a lot of people who are there saying, oh my God, I don't have full control over my own body anymore. I want that back. I want that guaranteed. And oh, by the way, while I'm here, I'm going to vote straight ticket for the party that isn't trying to control my body. Bodes very well for the election in Montana.
Pundit hat on a little bit, but how much of a boon will that referendum be for Jon Tester's re-election prospects, in your opinion? Because you were just talking about the importance that Montana's Senate election is going to have.
I think it'll be an enormous boon for Jon Tester. I think it'll be an enormous boon for a number of Senate states, including presidential rates. But you look at Montana. Montana is a red state, but it is also a very, very pro-choice state. You know, the Republicans in the West are not the kind of Republicans you see in Alabama or Mississippi. These are Republicans oftentimes because they want less government involvement in their lives. And abortion rights fits center square with their conception of individual liberty and freedom. And the guy he's running against, is not from Montana and it does not fit the state. I think Jon Tester is going to win. And I think the issue of voting rights will be center stage. The fact that Republicans tried to disenfranchise people and the issue of abortion rights will be center stage in turning out voters who might otherwise think, the presidential race is not really going to come down to Montana, but I need to show up and vote.
I think what's ironic is you mentioned that Montana Republicans aren't Alabama Republicans. Even Alabama Republicans are pro-choice. Marilyn Lands just flipped a seat in Alabama's state house by a margin of 25 points compared to the Republican who held it before her. And she ran her campaign, again, in Alabama, in like deep red Alabama, predicated on abortion and IVF. So even Alabama Republicans are more liberal on this issue than anybody would have ever imagined. So, to your earlier point, we did get that similar news out of Florida that the abortion referendum would appear on the November ballot. Do you believe that puts Democrats within striking distance in that state, despite its longstanding move to the right over these last couple decades?
Okay, first of all, I think that race was going to be tighter than people thought before. And let's just remember Rick Scott, who is the incumbent Republican senator, he has never won his elections by wide margins. I mean, 6 years ago, he won by 1/10 of 1%. He won the Senate race, 1/10 of 1%. Rick Scott is a fundamentally flawed individual that the people of Florida don't like.
He also perpetuated the largest Medicare fraud against the country and was levied I think it was a $1.7 billion fine at the time, which was the largest fine the DOJ has ever levied against anyone because he committed Medicare fraud when he was the CEO of Columbia HCA Hospital.
Correct. Right. So let's just start with that. So before everyone says, this race was going to be a blowout Republican race.
Just a side note, I really hope that Democrats in Florida who they aren't terribly bright. I would vote them as maybe the second worst state Democratic Party behind only New York. Democrats, Texas. Texas would be third, but admittedly not by much. Let's hope they have the wherewithal to mention the fact that Rick Scott engaged in Medicare fraud constantly during this election season. Keep an eye, if you're in Florida, keep an eye on the commercials. If you see a commercial against Rick Scott, let me know if they mention the fact that he is a liar. He committed fraud.
That was never true. But let me tell you, this abortion ballot initiative being on the ballot at the same time that the Florida Supreme Court effectively outlaws abortion in the state, it is bad for the women of Florida. It is bad for the voters of Florida that the Florida Supreme Court ruled the way they did on abortion rights. But I got to tell you, if I'm Rick Scott, I'm looking at what my post-Senate employment opportunities are. I think this Senate race in Florida now goes to toss-up, and I mean that, a true toss-up between the two sides. And put on top of that, and I've said this before, and everyone just mark this, however you mark things on YouTube, mark it and come back to this after the election. Donald Trump hates Ron DeSantis. The party in Florida is divided. The Florida Republican Party is not of one mind. They are at war with one another. And when you take a party at war with one another and you have an unpopular governor and you have an unpopular Senate candidate and you have a turbocharged electorate who is angry about what the state Supreme Court has just done on abortion, and they have the means to flip it at 60%. Republicans in some states tried to get a 60% threshold because they thought they were being clever. A 60% threshold for this initiative in Florida is a dream for Democrats. It is a nightmare for Republicans because it is going to turbocharge turnout like you have never seen. And those people turning out are not going to be voting for Rick Scott.
And finally, on that point, Arizona organizers have announced that they have enough signatures now for a ballot measure on abortion protecting that in their state constitution. How important will that be in a state that you've sounded the alarm about quite a bit?
Let me just really emphasize, when this channel started, closer to a year and a half ago, I was saying that we should try to get weed on the ballot anywhere we could. And the reason was not so that everybody gets to toke up, although lordy, that's fun. No, it was because the sort of people that will vote for a pro-weed measure will also vote Democrat. And again, I say, couldn't have asked politically for a better inspiration. I surely didn't want the rights of Americans to be taken away, but couldn't have asked for a better thing to inspire people that will not vote for Republicans to come out than the issue of abortion. It's a dark advantage. It's one I frankly wish we didn't have. But since the situation's here, we should acknowledge that we have it. This is great news.
Yeah, same thing. I mean, honestly, let's just start with the fact that Kerry Lake is insane. The mainstream media wanted to write and did write for several weeks this, Carrie Lake has gone mainstream, only to turn out that she's actually as nuts as ever. She's still an election denier. She's hanging out with Mike Lindell in the U.S. Supreme Court. And on top of all of that, you have Ruben Gallego, who's a very good candidate running for Senate on the Democratic side. And like I said, on top of that, now you will have likely a ballot initiative on the ballot around abortion. Well, Carrie Lake will show her true colors once again, with or without this initiative. But with this initiative, you again have the perfect storm of energy coming from people. Again, a party that is from kind of a more libertarian wing in Arizona. I think this moves this race decidedly to leans Democrat in the Senate race. I think it moves this race to probably slightly leans Biden in the presidential race. The fact that abortion will be front and center in Arizona is a gift to Democrats up and down the ballot in Arizona. And, the conservatives on the Supreme Court said that women are not without electoral power. In the Dobbs decision, I think they didn't know quite what they were writing, but they were 100% right. And I think we're going to see that in Montana, in Florida, and in Arizona.
Perfectly put. We'll leave it there. Mark, one last thing here. Just wanted to extend a little special thank you here. So I think,
and I'm sure the thank you is well deserved, but if and when I clip this, you can go to the link in the description. Or if you're interested in seeing it, it is in our Discord right now. Thank you, Foxxxy, for the suggestion. I hope you don't mind, but I sent Brian Tyler Cohen a bouquet of roses on your behalf a little bit. On the note, I also put, but if you're not into the ladies, you want to really have that MSNBC money, consider your old pal Jake. Oh my. So what do you guys think? What are your thoughts on this? Montana Supreme Court knocked down a bunch of Republican fuckery. And now it appears that it's going to be easier to vote in that state, despite their undemocratic attempts. Arizona and Florida have ballot measures regarding abortion. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. My thoughts off the bat. We are constantly battling a culture of ignorance. That's the most difficult thing about being a progressive in the United States. Frankly, around the world. Nobody who is educated on these matters stands against progressives. They don't always stand with them. Sometimes they have such strong opinions about how we ought to get progressive goals accomplished that they vote for other folks. But nobody who truly follows these things and understands what's happening stands against progressives. And yet, we find ourselves in nail-biter contests constantly because oligarchs have funded media empires, multiple, which exist entirely to spread disinformation. Yet we have these measures on the ballot now. Yet the actual effects of these legislators being in office is being felt by the average person in a way that transcends the normal voting contingencies. What do you call it? Constituencies? I don't know. The normal voting groups. Not all divided by skin color. It's not all hidden by vagaries. It's pretty straightforward. If you vote Republican, you're voting to have either your bodily autonomy taken away or you're voting to have your daughters, your wives, your sisters, your aunts, anybody who is born with the ability to reproduce, you're voting to have their ability to decide what happens to their own body to be taken from them and given to the government. That's been made abundantly clear. It just doesn't bode well for the Republicans, nor should it. People have no choice but to wake up. It was nearly a good outro. Let's see what the wicked community has to say. The anti-corporatist. I mean, Tester has been winning there since a long time. I don't see why he wouldn't still be able to. I hear you on responding to Mars. I think for the same reason that states that went for Trump might not this time around, because more people are affected by the things John Tester would have done. Tinkerbell, there's hope for Montana. I agree. Anti-corporatist Mars Falcon, I actually like Gallego's chances. He's much more popular than Katie Hobbs and is more willing to campaign. And Hobbs beat Lake last time. I hope you're right. Jules T. John Boehner owns a pot dispensary. This coming from a former legislator that passed some of the most punitive drug laws in the country. Now that mofo is making money from selling the same. In Michigan, there was about 2 weeks where it looked like they were going to combine the recent legalization of marijuana with reparations, and it was a genius move. You know how Native American folks can operate casinos on their own land? Michigan progressives pitched an idea that unfortunately got shot down. But I encourage you guys, if these laws pass in your areas, I encourage you guys to try these laws that could have been. The black community has been assaulted, frankly, on the pretext of keeping the nation drug-free. But really, as we discovered from Nixon, it had nothing to do with safety. It had nothing to do with how difficult or how harmful marijuana is. It had everything to do with the fact that people that wouldn't vote for Nixon would smoke pot. And based on that, we had generations locked up. What you could do, and what I might recommend you try, and what I do recommend you try, is if your state legalizes marijuana, introduce bills that would prioritize black-owned businesses. Give them an early start. Give them a leg up over folks like John Boehner, who hypocritically attacked these folks through anti-pot laws and now want to make money off the nation's realizing that John Boehner was full of nonsense. Carrie Lake is insane and she may win, says Mars Falcon. We will be close because Murica is lost. Here's an interesting thing about Carrie Lake. In my opinion, she is Donald Trump writ quick. She's the sped up version of Donald Trump's career. Campaigned and lost, then made a career out of fighting an election that was long over, and she had no case for it. She has bled all the small dollar donors that she can. Now she's running for something new. It's true. But I don't think somebody that, let's say, has given her $300 over the last, how long she's been doing this? Over the last year, is going to turn around and give her another 50 to run for her campaign, which means she is going, her new campaign, which means she is going to be doing the same thing Trump has had to do. Rely entirely on big business for her donations. She does have a chance. It does speak to the depravity of this country that she has any chance at all. But she has less of a chance, ironically, because she's gotten away with being scum for so long. The anti-corporatists. Hey, Jake, you got anything going on Friday afternoons? You know, the call-in show was the idea, or peace talks was the idea. I'm open to changing that. What are you thinking? Because there are people on Friday nights, but the afternoon is wide open. You could even have a few drinks with the folks. Well, that's interesting. Let me think about that. I like that idea. I do like that idea. Tinkerbell, Carrie Lake is embarrassing. Yes. Wholeheartedly agreed, Pink. Public utility, textbook psychopath. Yeah. Ha! Anti-corporatist. Carrie Lake, CBD. No. Sunset Lake is the CBD. Carrie Lake would be straight meth. Jules T. In New York, they did this, but ironically, the bureaucracy made it difficult for the minority communities to open up their own dispensaries. Yeah, I don't think that would have been an accident. Soul Life, thank you very much with the very kind gifted membership. Thank you so much. That's sweet of you. Let me see if I can hand this out. How do I hand out these members? Is that for me to do? Oh boy, wait. I'm going to view my channel. 1 second. All right, now I'm clicking on Jules T. I was told at one point that I have the ability to hand out the members, but maybe not. Obsessive Audio, by the way, good to see you, my friend. Been a minute. Sorry, I've been all over the place. Public utility, the Nevada Supreme Court's opinion and analysis on Mack v. Williams places Nevada alongside Colorado and New Mexico as states ending the use of qualified immunity, boom, as a defense to violations of a state constitution. However, the Nevada legislature can effectively reverse the decision by codifying the defense. Noted. Still good. Good move. Pinkerbell, I think it's all automatic. Okay, fair enough. Public utility. Some are pre-gifted, I see. Anti-corporatist. Apparently, Jake, you can give out 10 free subs a month. I have been trying of late. All right. I shall try again in a minute. I want to get to the other video I saw you guys put in there. This was another Brian Tyler Cohen video. This was from the Anti-Corporatist a couple of days back. Apparently, we're doing a Brian Tyler Cohen-a-thon. Y'all know my tastes well, though. I think this guy is very, very good. I think he is. I don't know if I'd go as far as to say he's the next Mehdi Hassan. Mehdi was, as far as NBC went, the best and brightest. But he's damn good. What I look for in a political commentator is the same thing I look for in like a science communicator. You know, like a Neil deGrasse Tyson type or a Bill Nye. It's not that I want him to know everything. It's that I want him to do the due diligence and be able to explain to me, who does not know going into these things, what happened and what the more importantly, what the relevance is. And that, I think he does a fantastic job. So, got another one here with Brian Tyler Cohen. This one recommended by the anti-corporatist. AC, thank you. It's in regards to a surprise update shaking the entire 2024 election. I haven't seen this yet, but ooh boy, do I want to. Let's have a gander.
Some breaking news here that promises to have huge implications for the November election. So there's a coalition of reproductive rights organizations in Arizona called Arizona for Abortion Access who've come out and announced that they have exceeded the signature threshold to put a constitutional amendment on abortion on the state's ballot in November.
Okay, so we basically did go over this with the Mark Elias video. This one's quick, though. Let's just run through it.
The organization claims that they've gathered over 500,000 petition signatures, far more than the 383,000 necessary to get the amendment on the ballot. And they still have 3 months to go until the July 3rd deadline. And they plan to continue collecting signatures until that very day, meaning even with invalidations, this amendment is all but certain to move forward. The news comes on the immediate heels of similar news out of Florida, where the state Supreme Court ruled that a constitutional amendment to codify abortion rights can appear on the November ballot. This news came at the same time that the state Supreme Court also ruled that Ron DeSantis' draconian 6-week abortion ban can go into effect, which will all but eliminate abortion not only in Florida, but the entire southern United States. The problem for Florida Republicans is that abortion rights are extremely popular in the state, just as they are in the rest of the country. According to polling, nearly 2/3 of Floridians approve of abortion rights, including 53% of Republicans.
Ooh, okay. Now, for those watching the live show, we talked about this earlier, but it was more broad, and I do have something to say specifically about this. We'll get to it. I just want to point out one thing. They're called abortion rights. Abortion rights, abortion rights. And you know, Cohen's correct to call them that here. I just want to draw attention to the second word in that phrase, rights. Just make sure to stress to your Republican burdens. I don't want to call them friends or family. If they're Republican, the only thing I know for sure about them is they are a burden to society. So make sure to stress to those Republican burdens that you carry that Republicans are for taking away people's rights. That's what they're for. Democrats, no matter what else you might think about them, they are for giving people rights, letting people make their own decisions with what happens to their own bodies.
Meaning this is an issue that's going to turn out voters who oppose Republicans, and they're likely not going to be falling over themselves to reward Republicans at the ballot box at the same time they're showing up to rein them in. In fact, it's not just Florida and Arizona. Here's a map of the states where abortion measures are seeking ballot access. They include other key states like Nevada and Montana, where Democrats are defending must-win Senate seats. And you'll notice that the referendum is already approved in New York. And while you might think that that won't have a huge impact given how blue New York is, remember that there are a raft of House seats that are up for grabs in that state that unto themselves flip the House to Republicans' control. If Democrats win just 2 of the toss-up seats in New York alone, which include New York's 4th, 17th, 19th, and 22nd congressional districts, then Hakeem Jeffries will be the next Speaker of the House. So clearly, turning out more voters by putting abortion rights directly onto the ballot is going to pay dividends, electorally speaking, in a hugely consequential state. And of course, Donald Trump knows full well the disastrous position that he's landed himself in, which is why the guy who will weigh in without hesitation on literally anything and everything said this today when asked about Florida's new 6-week abortion ban.
Mr. President, do you support the 6-week abortion ban of the Florida Supreme Court?
We'll be making a statement next week on abortion.
And look, he can punt to next week all he wants. God knows we're still waiting on that healthcare plan that he promised would come in 2 weeks. But the fact is that we already know exactly where he stands on the issue of abortion and exactly who's responsible for it being banned.
I got rid of
Roe v. Wade. A lot of things were done with Roe by killing it. Supreme Court justices and the Supreme Court ruled to end the moral and constitutional atrocity known as Roe v. Wade. Very important. We did the Roe v. Wade thing, which they've been trying to get it done. If it weren't for me with Roe v. Wade, you wouldn't even be talking about this. Getting rid of Roe v. Wade was an incredible thing.
I'm the one that got rid of Roe v. Wade.
And what I did by killing
brutal.
Roe v. Wade, which everyone said was impossible. For 54 years, they were trying to get Roe v. Wade terminated, and I did it.
This Donald Trump answer on abortion, like, that dog ain't gonna hunt, okay? He is the person who put 3 justices on the Supreme Court who overturned Roe. He has bragged about it numerous times. You see, and we saw in September when he was fumbling around, and he continues to kind of fumble around. He obviously understands the political implications, but there is no
say we need to win elections.
Yes,
right.
There is no world where he is going to be able to weasel out of
His rhetoric. Yeah, she's right. So that's Brian Tyler Cohen being a little more concise about specifically abortion appearing on the ballot. As I said, that's going to drive Democratic voters. And in addition to the other thing we heard in the previous video, Montana the Supreme Court in Montana just ruled that a whole bunch. Sorry, that camera's flickering on me. You all right, buddy? All right. A whole bunch of voter suppression laws that Republicans had put in place are against their state constitution. So they're outskis. It means more people are going to be able to vote more ways. This bodes extraordinarily well for Democrats. What you can do about it is pretty simple. You can do this right here and now. Tell everybody who isn't following this particularly closely that abortion will be on the ballot. Whether or not you can get an abortion, whether or not your daughter can. And yes, we're all insufferable lefties here. I feel the need to say it. Or your trans son, or your aunt, or uncle, or whoever the hell. If you have the ability to get pregnant, but you don't want to be pregnant, your control over your own body is on the ballot. Here's what I would recommend you do. Tap in to those, if you have an anti-vax weirdo in your circles, as in somebody who is irrationally against vaccines. For the record, I don't even think it's inherently irrational to be skeptical of government-mandated anything. But if you have somebody that believes that the government is going to suddenly write a law that says everybody is required to have this, that, or the other thing, take advantage of that. Say the true fact that the precedent is being set right now for the government to determine what you can or cannot do with your own body. Make sure they know that the matter of abortion, even if you are a cis male who cannot have kids in any way, shape, or form, cannot get pregnant in any way, shape, or form, I should say, this will eventually affect you one way or another. Even if you're a cis male who is gay, you will never get anybody pregnant. You are only attracted to other cis males. This will still affect you. Because if we slip here, we fall far. If we say the government is allowed to determine what medical procedures we can and cannot get for ourselves, it will not be even a full lifetime before, let's be honest, more Republicans try to expand the government's powers there. Republicans claim to be against big government. They have demonstrated that is not true at all. They are for one thing and one thing only, and that's Republicans deciding for you how you get to live your life. So make it clear, this is an issue of principle. You can be personally 100% against getting an abortion, and yet you should still vote to protect people's ability to decide for themselves whether or not they will. That will drive out the vote. I recommend you do. And I recommend you take the opportunity as you are doing this to point out that the Democratic Party, even if you disagree with a whole lot of what they're about, they are the only party that is for you having the right to control your own body. You can pitch that in a lot of ways to a lot of people because it is a basic belief of almost everybody. Almost everybody, except Republican politicians. Let's see what the wicked community has to say. Thank you, AC, by the way, for that one. Tinkerbell, abortion is life-saving medical treatment. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And so often it surprises Republicans to hear that brought up. They are very carefully fed information or opinions that stress a narrow view of what abortion is. And Democrats bear some, but not much, but some responsibility for that messaging as well, because for years they were so afraid to say the word abortion. But yes, I won't specify which family member, but I had a family member who I'm very close to who had a stillbirth. She found out it was going to be this way about a week before she gave birth. It was a heartbreaking moment. One of the darker moments in my life. Wasn't even someone who was in a relationship with me. It was somebody a couple of times removed from my own household. And just being aware of that burden they were carrying around. The sad knowledge. Devastating. They gave birth. The child born dead. That's what a stillbirth essentially amounts to. And we had a funeral, and that was that. That, given the information we were given, was the best case scenario. There are times when people learn that A, the baby will not survive birth, and B, neither will the mother. When a state bans abortion, they write a death sentence to every mother who hears that. Every mother who will be in that situation. It's a cruel thing done for the purpose of political theater only. Republicans have no principles. Republicans don't really believe in anything. They are killing people for votes. They're killing people so they can talk about things other than how they're screwing over their constituents on the campaign trail, which they are. They're a murderous party. one which I believe should be dealt with in the criminal justice system. I will speak to that more and more broadly after November. Simply because it's an irrelevant conversation before we kill their power. But we have lived through a generation of barbarism simply being allowed. We've had the weakest Democrats that will ever appear in the history books in our lifetimes. As a result, we have had the most evil Republicans one could imagine. If they had the ability, they would reinstitute slavery. They're trying their damnedest to, as a matter of fact, through the U.S. justice system. Every time they try to say, "Oh, you can make prisoners labor for free, and a capitalist can collect money." Just slavery. It's slavery with extra steps, as a cartoon frequently says. But you know what? Is it even extra steps? The steps used to be, you go over to Africa, you kidnap a bunch of people, you bring them over here, you sell them to the slave masters, and make them work for free. Is it extra steps to say you have your slave catchers go out and find folks violating arbitrary laws? Like, for example, making weed illegal, this thing that can grow basically anywhere in the U.S. Make that plant illegal so that the people who enjoy it can be arrested. You catch them a couple of times, you can have them for a real long time. Make sure that when they get out of prison, it's very difficult for them to find jobs because they have no rights protecting their privacy once they've served their debt to society. Make it more and more likely that you can keep them caged. And then the slave masters buy and sell them. Private prisons. Buy and sell them. That's who we're dealing with. Those are the times we're living in now. That's the way these times will be discussed soon. Likely, the people who are in high school now will view it that way in about 20 years. And their kids will view it that way their whole lives. And our generation will not be looked upon kindly for what we've already allowed to happen. Those are the political factions we're currently dealing with. And yes, they kill people who can have children. Don't allow them to keep getting away with it. Oh, you guys have been donating quite a bit, and I thank you very much for that. It's been incredibly. Deborah Kempthorne, I miss New York City, but sadly I agree, just too expensive. Oh, yeah. WirelesMike, hello. Good to see you, my friend. Those of you that don't know, WirelesMike has been a frequent guest voice actor. He is a phenomenal voice actor, and he's got a channel called My Dramatic Impact, wherein he uploads custom productions. He did some around Christmas time, which I enjoyed delightfully. They were Christmas horror stories. Check them out if you're ever looking for some lighter entertainment than my ranting against the U.S. modern slave system. Hey, I know somebody who's got some content we should look at. Pinkerbell is her name-o. She recommends a video by Bo of the Fifth Column. We go and check it out. I mean, in a minute we're going to check. First, I have to load it up. And then we're going to take a brief break and discuss some channel things I hope you guys will enjoy. Oh, and we're going to talk leftist infighting. That's something I wanted to talk about. One of my favorite things to address these days, because I get to stretch my conspiracy brain a little bit. All the fun has been taken out of, this is just a brief thing before we record this. All the fun for me has been taken out of conspiracy theories. Once upon a time, they were talking pre 9/11. They were fun, but what if type things. They're not that way anymore. But I do want to do. It's not even a conspiracy theory. It's a theory about, I guess, social evolution. And I think the left has an opportunity to become much stronger than it has ever been through learning how to duel honorably and pick our targets better. But we'll get to that in a moment. First, I want to talk the fifth column. I suspect we're going to be talking about the same thing. But if I'm getting this suggestion from three folks, it means it's significant. Got a suggestion from Pinkerbell here. Pink, thank you very much. This is submitted on our Discord under the content suggestion section. If you're interested in suggesting content for me to get to, hopefully, eventually, pop it in there, and we'll occasionally do mailbag extravaganzas. That's what we're doing today. This is both the fifth column saying that Florida might be in play in this upcoming election. That's a shock, but if you were listening to our Brian Tyler Cohen videos, you might have an idea as to why that is. Let's check it out.
Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again.
Howdy, Bo.
So today we are going to talk about timing and November, Florida, and how the math as far as who's going to become president just changed a little bit because of a ruling in Florida. So what happened? There are really two rulings. One basically said, okay, 30 days from now, a 6-week ban can go into effect when it comes to family planning, when it comes to abortion. The other, in a 4-3 ruling, said that, reproductive rights, it'll be on the ballot in November. The people in Florida, they will be asked to say yes or no and vote on a statement that is going to say no law shall prohibit, penalize, delay, or restrict abortion before viability or when necessary to protect the patient's health. Viability,
Boom.
I don't know, 22, 24 weeks, somewhere in there is when that normally where that normally gets decided. In Florida, you need 60% to do something on the ballot like that for it to pass. 60%. So what does this mean? It's going to go from, in 30 days, 6-week ban is going to go into effect. Floridians are going to see that. They're going to see the impacts of it. And then they're going to have...
Pause. Floridians are going to feel that, too. I'm not happy about this. Let me be clear. But there's going to be a lot of 6 weeks between now and Election Day. There's going to be a lot of people whose lives are altered permanently. There's going to be a lot of people, there's going to be some people who lose family members to births they did not intend to have. But more importantly, there's going to be people who experience the most personal tragedies you can have them made worse by the Republican Party. There's going to be people who find out that they've been pregnant for 2 months. It's going to be 8 weeks. They're going to find out they're pregnant with a child that will never grow a brain, or whose heart will never be able to pump blood without the mother being connected to it. There's going to be a lot of people who find out they're going to have to give birth to a child that they will watch die horribly in that time. How do you think they're going to vote? I would take basically any other way to inspire people to vote. I worked as hard as I can to ensure this did not happen, but it did happen. And the result is going to be people are going to know that Republicans ruined their lives.
The opportunity to get rid of it in November at the same time as the presidential election. The groups that are in favor of a limitation at viability, they're going to be pushing to get 60% of the vote. The short version here is that Florida is in play for the presidential election. The electoral votes are up for grabs. This has changed that dynamic. So if the Democratic Party invests resources in Florida, it very well may pay off for them. This is a situation where the Biden administration stands a decent chance, or the Biden campaign stands a decent chance of getting a state that Trump won in 2016 and 2020, because they're going to get a big boost from this. If they devote the resources to it, it very well might alter the outcome of the entire presidential election. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.
I will have a good day. Thank you, Bo. Super sad. But it's, again, a more focused version of the same thing, this time just Florida. You guys know my thoughts. It's good in terms of politics, in terms of long-term outcomes for the United States, and ultimately for the world, which is either left alone to prosper or assaulted by the United States. Sucks that it's happening this way. Want to know what you can do? Point out the other states where this is happening. Arizona, Montana. Talk about fact that this is not just about a woman's right to choose, or a person who can have children, a person who can get pregnant, their right to choose. This is about, literally, whether or not the government has the ability to tell you, an American citizen, what you can do with your body. Hammer that home, because it's facts. In Florida in particular, I don't know how much evidence you need to see to understand that Republicans are incompetent. Do you really need to see a $1 billion, another $1 billion in lost revenue because the dumbass Republican governor picked a fight with Disney? Do you really need to get another couple of dozen schools shot up before you understand that Republicans cannot legislate to save not only their lives, but your children's lives? They don't care. And if they did care, they wouldn't be able to do anything anyway because they are incompetent. By design. Nobody who votes Republican is to be taken seriously. And they will not be taken seriously until they educate themselves enough to stop voting Republican. Thank you for the suggestion, Pink. Let's see what the Wicked community has to say. WirelesMike says, check your email. I shall. Nope, that's not my email. Oh, my session expired. Stand by, logging in. Oh, I hope this is the right path. I'm checking my email right now, as I said I would. Oh. Please tell me. All right. Logging in. Ah, there we go. Oh, another bow. Okay. Okay. We'll do that next. Thank you, Mike, for the suggestion. Donald James X. I don't know what the Floridians are thinking. I'm not in Florida to have a pulse there. Yeah. Tinkerbell, prioritizing the moral comfort of strangers over the medical reality that makes abortion care necessary is an egregious example of misaligned priorities. Oh, we got a raid from Environmental Coffee House? Cool. Thank you, Sandy. Let me know if you're accepting raids, and I'll start doing the same to you. Tinkerbell, Jake forgot his password. Calling it now. You are correct. I had to look it up. Bella the Greasy, hi Jake and friends. Hello, Bella. Good to see you. Invite Sandy, hello to you. And thank you for the raid. I greatly appreciate that. Public utility. Dem share of presidential elections in Florida has averaged about 40% since the 70s. Yeah, that's painful. Deborah Kempthorne, I can say, as a Floridian for almost 40 years, I wouldn't even vacation here now. Yeah, it's painful, man. I'm sorry. Do you think, Deborah, do you think it is that the retiree communities are largely voting Republican, or do you think it is just a snowball effect from the existence of the certain Republican victories, such as the 2000 theft of an election by Jeb Bush? I have no idea what makes Florida vote red as often as it does. Looney Tunes 9000. The raid comes via me. Thank you. LT9K. Thank you. Jules T. Florida was really blue for the longest. What happened? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't understand where this came from. Truly do not. Because it's not like it doesn't have a lot of cities. There's Miami, there's Tampa, there's good-sized populations, and yet we've had just a streak of the worst decisions fathomable for both presidential and governor races for like 24 years now. 30. Good God. Tinkerbell, Jeb Bush put a curse on the whole state. Yeah. Nadia Yvette Chambers, good to see you. Right-wing Cubans and other immigrants. First of all, let me express my admiration for your ability to find the E with the little slash over it on a keyboard. I try. I can't. I know there's a command you can use. I look it up. It doesn't work when I do it. Very impressed. Second of all, I think you're right. I think there's folks that their only view of leftism comes from Castro, which, yeah, I don't even think Castro's exactly a horrible person by modern standards. But you're right. There's a group of folks which are constantly coming into Florida, which will simply not vote for anything that they are told even resembles communism, and that's painful. Good call. Donald James X, I don't know how to do that with the E either. Yeah, right? Public utility, switch GOP and the Southern strategy. Yeah. Environmental Coffee House. I see some of our crew here. Hello to the Environmental Coffee House crew. Aaron W., I do it with the touch keyboard, essential when I write in French. Ooh la la. Fancy Dan here. All right. Jules T., Cubans are still pulling the commie card hysteria. Yeah, I mean, we effed so many countries up with our Cold War propaganda, not even mentioning our actual military fiascos. Pinkerbell, the evil force that keeps Rick Scott alive, feeds on human misery, and electing Republicans is a cheat code for that. You're right. Nadia Yvette Chambers, at What You Can Do. They're coming in from all of the Latin American CIA-installed death squad dictatorships, not just Cuba. Good point. Good point. Let me go back to that in a second. Kristen Rose. Hi, Jake. Hello to you, Kristen. Good to see you, my friend. Environmental Coffee House, you have had a long show, Jake. We kept it right under an hour. Well, yeah, I'm experimenting with doing things a little bit more long form. I think the numbers tell me that's better for live stream health, and I agree. Going back up to Nadia's comment, they're coming in, let me repeat that, from all Latin American CIA-installed death squad dictatorships, not just Cuba. Understand that in a lot of Latin American countries, we, like Chile would be a great example of this. We installed horrible leaders simply because we were having the commie not commie fight. We wanted to ensure that nobody could run a country anywhere near us if they were communist, because we thought that would make them automatically allies of Russia. That was foolish as well. And the end result is that we have extraordinarily polarized countries. We have countries which have populations that are deciding their political views not just based on the type of government being pitched by the politicians, but the history of blood that led up to those politicians. There's civil wars and death squads, and yeah, it sounds like conspiracy talk, but it's fact. These were CIA installed and prompted coups often. I give you the Sandinistas and that bloody history. I give you the Iran-Contra affair. So, the end result is you have a populace which comes here and takes with them the grudges left over from that. It's heartbreaking. It is why I frequently say nobody won the Cold War. All right, WirelesMike. I see. I pressed it. I pressed Alt 0233. That I have to rely on the copy paste function. The anti-corporatist, a friend of Jake's or something, Obsolete Optics. Oh, Obsolete Optics, welcome. Welcome to the channel memberships. Thank you, my friend. I think both of our countries are mutually mourning the loss of one of our own right now. When Israel chose to murder food aid workers, one of them was an American and Canadian citizen. So we're both in mourning. Thank you for joining. And hopefully, with our powers combined, we can actually save some of our own in addition to, however many thousand innocents are left. I've stopped tracking the death toll in Gaza, not because I don't think people should be made aware of it, but because I do not trust the numbers. I will say that we passed 30,000 dead a long time ago. We might just be at 30,000 dead children. But when you see, for example, Israel saying, oh, we got 9,000 members of Hamas, what they mean is we killed 9,000 adult men, adult being over 5 feet tall, males. That's what they mean. Just so you're clear, when you read those numbers, that's what they're talking about. So when Israel says, this is how many members of Hamas we got, know that will be revised later, after people are able to walk amongst the corpses, count heads, and match them to the bodies they were ripped off of by a drone strike from war machines we supplied. Horrific. Hey, speaking of fighting, this is a terrible transition. Let's talk about leftist infighting. I don't even know if this is going to be worthy of recording, but I will. Let's talk about leftist infighting. Something I've been viewing a lot lately. I notice that in the good times, when generally speaking, the left is making strides, there's not a lot of infighting, or rather, the fighting that happens is productive. And when things get rough, ironically, leftists spend tons of energy attacking each other. I don't think we should stop attacking each other. Yeah, I know, surprise, surprise. But I don't think that's healthy either. I think, believe it or not, it comes from a good place. I think when, for example, people do a stream about Vosh's scandal, which I care not to go into for a number of reasons. Primary being it's a little bit gross. I think they have good intentions. But I also think we are played against each other. I don't recommend, as I said, that we stop critiquing one another. But I do recommend we do our food table. You remember the food pyramid where it tells you how much grain are you supposed to have, how much meat and veg, how much milk, that sort of stuff. Do that, but with where you're spending your energy. You should ask yourself the following questions, I think, when you are partaking in this stuff. Here, what's a great example? Anna Kasparian. Let's use that. Ask yourself, what is this person advocating for when a scandal comes up, when they start fighting each other about this or that? You see a bunch of people piling on. What are they advocating for? In Anna Kasparian's case, and frankly, Cenk Uygur as well, they're advocating for not being good allies to trans people. I think, in that case, it is a great time to pile on and say, F this person. Because if we don't, then that becomes acceptable on the left. That becomes acceptable discourse. On the other hand, if you have somebody, and I'm not going to name the person because I frankly can't remember who it was at this point, but if you have somebody who it's discovered that in their past, oh, you know what? Let's just use Cenk Uygur again. It's discovered that in their past they were this way or that way, and it was frankly dastardly. In Cenk's case, he used to be a conservative. Ask yourself, are they still advocating for that thing? If they are not, why are you spending your time arguing about it? Doesn't even mean, you should still support them. If you find out, for example, that, Cenk Uygur used to be a conservative, and it just puts a bad taste in your mouth. You can't get over that, even though at one point he was supposedly supporting leftist positions. You just stop watching them. But every time you spend time talking about these folks, and by the way, in the spirit of this thing, toss in your comments if you disagree with me, because I want to hear your opinions, especially if they differ from my own, and I want to address them here and now and help form my own opinion. But here's just the thoughts I've had. If they are generally pulling in the same political direction you are, it doesn't help for you to push them away. If you exist in the same world as Steven Crowder, Ben Shapiro, Tucker Carlson, who's Candace Owens, who's that fella, Patrick Betty Davis. If you're in the same world as them, I would say that's where your attention should go first in terms of who's worth fighting against. I do think the reason, and this just dawned on me tonight, which is why I want to talk about it. The reason that we get so excited to fight each other on the left is that we know we can actually make a difference, and it's true. No Comment Chick has done how many videos, how many live streams just dedicated to dunking on Vaush. Not even saying it's a good thing or a bad thing. It's a statement of fact. She's done multiple hour live streams dunking on Vaush. Her audience is the kind of audience Vaush will generally be going after. So it will have an effect on Vaush's numbers. Again, this is not me dunking on her doing those videos. I watch those videos. I think they're interesting. I'm not comfortable watching Vaush these days. I prefer to hear about such scandals through her. But the reason that we get excited for them, I feel, is because we actually have an effect. Whereas if you spent all that time talking about what a scumbag Tucker Carlson is, who are you talking to? Not other people that watch Tucker Carlson. So you're not really accomplishing anything. other than arguably getting educated on how other people are misinformed, which has its own use, but really not as satisfying because it's not as immediate. What I propose as an alternative is simply gentlemen's debates, ladies and gentlemen's debates. If you find yourself in strong disagreement with somebody because of a stance they have, you should first and foremost decide if the disagreement will actually result in you guys voting differently. If that is so, yeah, then that's top of the line priority wise. Still doesn't mean you have to be angry, because I suppose I shouldn't have said first and foremost before. Let's say tied with that is, what are their intentions? Are they being honest? Are they someone who's genuinely trying to find the right of things? Probably, though, if you're talking about somebody on the left, they are trying to find the right of things. They might have arrived at the wrong conclusion, in your opinion. But understand that's very different than somebody who's watching Tucker Carlson just because it gives them half a chub to have somebody come this close to saying Hitler was great. A different class of people, and they deserve to be treated with more friendliness. If you find, however, that you are arguing over second, third, and fourth order issues, if you're finding that you're arguing passionately and you're getting angry over what should be done 2 elections down the line after we've already voted the same way twice, you're wasting your energy. That's my feelings. You're wasting your energy. It's not even to say you should set the conversation totally aside, but if it becomes an argument, if it's not something you're enjoying talking about, but rather something you feel you have to win, I think then we're being caught up in a quagmire that benefits Tucker Carlson, his audience, and the people he would support politically. What do you guys think? How should lefties argue? I don't think we should stop debating. I don't think we should stop criticizing each other. I think that's what keeps us the good guys. But we shouldn't get burnt out on criticizing each other either, and we shouldn't devote all of our time to that. So what do you guys think? Anticorporatus. Yep. Oh, X video. Oh, never mind. Moving up. Donald James. Actually, I feel the Vanguard kind of does similar content, but they also get good guests also. Fair enough. Public utility. The core of the problem is burnout. I'm sorry, I didn't state that straight up, and that probably makes this an uploadable segment. It's burnout. The core of the problem is people spending too much of their time, too much of their energy on arguments with people that are already going to be doing the things that you want them to do in the next 6 months anyway. Arguing with people that will probably be shoulder to shoulder with you when it comes time to protest this or that. And yet, because you guys watch different streamers due to a scandal that may or may not be real, you wind up having bad feelings. It's keeping the energy up. It's learning to argue in ways that are fun. How do we keep our arguments fun with each other? That's what I'm wondering. Because I think leftist infighting is the dark version of leftist sparring, and leftist sparring is very good. I think lefties should stop arguing, says Obsolete Optics, and start arming. Well, that I agree. Obsessive audio. We have to clash the ideas. Stay sharp. Well, I agree there. Obsolete optics. Hegelian dialectics. Problem leads to reaction, leads to solution. All right. WirelesMike. I think we should cool off till after the election. Now there's something. There's something that's of great use right there. Having a season for honing our swords versus having a season for using them. I like that a lot. Like, December 2024 is the Great Lefty Olympics, where we start jousting over this, that, and the other thing that could be delayed till after the election. I think that's very, very savvy. Interesting. On that note, what do you guys think would be an appropriate time to have the more, let's say there's these base debates over, should you vote Democrat in your state's elections or independent or yada yada. When you go up a few, when it's things like what's a lefty debate? Should you still watch Vosh, even though it was found to be no? I guess that's not even a lefty thing. That's just a media consumption thing. What's a good esoteric lefty debate? Should we nationalize the railways and the airplanes, all the air travel, or just the railways? Or should we do should we also nationalize the steel industry? Like that kind of stuff. Or should we not nationalize any of this stuff? Like, when do we have those very esoteric conversations? I think I really like doing it the month after the presidential election, because it also tells you then immediately know what you have to work with. For example, should we do, here's one that I want to see us working on. Should we be spending our political capital to have a Truth and Reconciliation Commission to find out what happened between 2020 and 2024? Why could we not determine in that chunk of time that Donald Trump, who asked for a coup in front of nationally broadcasting television cameras, why could we not have that settled in a court of law in that time? Just like the 9/11 Truth Commission. I think we need that. Did Merrick Garland fail in his duty as Attorney General? I think he did, personally. But you notice I don't really talk about getting together such a commission right now, because I don't even know if we're going to have the people in office to vote for that. Regardless, we're going to have to demand it, and if such a thing ever happens, it will be because we had the people in office who would be swayed by us, and then we went out there and we asked them for it, and we sat in front of their offices a few times. We made it a big stink. It got picked up on national television. That kind of stuff. Jules T. Garland was an epic failure. Yeah, he really was. The anti-corporatists, actually, we need to be focused until the election. These damn motherfuckers could lose in a tanning contest with an Inuit. Yes. All right. I agree. I think you guys found the correct answer to this. There is space for this level of debate, but there's a season for it. And I think that season starts November 5th, 2024. If you disagree, still let me know. I'll say this on the Vosh front, and it's the last thing I'm going to say. I didn't know that Diddy did any of the stuff he's recently been found to do. And I think the reason I didn't know that is because all of my attention was within this cultural sliver of the world. I don't really follow pop culture. I don't really, follow any of that stuff. But that was a big story. If you don't know, Diddy turns out was the Harvey Weinstein of the rat community. Obsolete optics. Welcome to Friends of Doris. Soul Life. If I didn't thank you for gifting that those memberships. Thank everybody. Thank you to everybody who donated and who has joined the memberships. That is what keeps the channel afloat. My point being, my eye was off that particular ball, and I just find it a little disturbing. I think, but I don't know that it's an energy drain that benefits the enemies of us all, the Diddies of the world. I'm going to set up this next one. This is from WirelesMike. Who's Doris? Says Obsolete Optics. Doris Lashevsky has been following my online work since I was a digital producer for WDIV in Detroit. She has been around for a very, very long time, and hence, because we do not forget those who raised us up, the channel memberships are named after her. It's also a bit of a reference to slang from the Navy. When, or not slang from the Navy, but slang from the old days, where if you were I think it was might have been Doris, a friend of Doris, you were homosexual. And a humorous incident. Let me look it up, actually. We'll give you a little bit of Americana right here. Navy, friends of Dorothy. Yeah. A friend of Dorothy is a euphemism for a gay man, first used in LGBT slang. Stating that or asking if someone is a friend of Dorothy. I'm reading from Wikipedia. Is a furtive way of suggesting sexual orientation while avoiding hostility. The term was likely based on the character Dorothy Gale of the Oz series of novels, which has been interpreted as including much queer subtext. Actress Judy Garland, who portrayed Dorothy in the Wizard of Oz film, is considered a gay icon. Where's the Navy story? Because the Navy's funny. Misunderstanding. In the late 1970s and 80s, and early 1980s, the Naval Investigative Service, the predecessor to the modern-day Naval Criminal Investigative Service, was investigating homosexuality in the Chicago area because we live in effing backward times. Agents discovered that gay men sometimes referred to themselves as friends of Dorothy. Unaware of the historical meaning of the term, the NIS believed that there actually was a woman named Dorothy at the center of a massive ring of homosexual military personnel. So they launched an enormous and futile hunt for the elusive Dorothy, hoping to find her and convince her to reveal the names of gay service members. So in honor to the Navy's stupidity there, as well as their their cruel witch hunt for people that just like to kiss other fellas. We call the membership for WICD Friends of Doris. It's also, of course, a head nod to my personal longest running fan, who I adore dearly and still stops by from time to time, Doris Lashevsky. Doris, we adore you. Gang. Got a suggestion from WirelesMike. I'm eager to talk about it. Boy, oh boy. Let's do it. Got a suggestion from WirelesMike here. It is for Bo of the Fifth Column. He's talking about developments from Biden's recent call. Biden spoke with Israel recently. And Lordy, I mean, going into this blank, I don't know what he's going to say, but wouldn't it just be lovely if he said, hey, we're going to stop helping you do this genocide? That'd be neat. That'd be real neat. I know those the people that ordered the murder of the people driving food trucks down a path which was supposed to be safe. Those folks got fired. The two commanders who did that. That's not good enough. It's just not. The IDF is a bloodthirsty organization. They are currently engaged in a genocide. We are currently assisting that genocide. At the same time, just down the road, we are fighting. We are doing this. We are offering the same type of aid to people on the opposite side of an ideological battle. We are helping the Ukrainians stop their own genocide by arming them. The hypocrisy is astounding. The brutality is unacceptable. Let's hope. Let's find out.
Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again.
Howdy, Bo.
So today we're going to talk about Biden, that call, and the things that have transpired since that call, because we already need to do an update on it, because there have been some developments. And we're going to talk about foreign policy. So we're going to start off with an incredibly quick recap of the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Good.
We noticed around the time of the State of the Union that the Biden administration was getting a little bit more, let's just call it anxious.
Let's state that since then, New York voted 12% uncommitted in the primaries. That's huge. Good job.
When it comes to the situation, the rhetoric was getting a little bit sharper, and there was an indication that they were ready to exert a little bit more pressure. But at that time, we didn't really see it. You saw the Biden administration get a little bit more leverage that it could actually use without, having to redesign the entire U.S. presence in the Middle East. Some of that came through requests for aid, and some of that came through the French throwing up that resolution at the UN that included the recognition of a Palestinian state.
Morbius Dragon, welcome to the Friends of Doris. I have to say, very quickly, and thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining. Delighted to have you, Morbius Dragon.
It gave the Biden administration leverage, but didn't know if they were going to use it. We saw more calls about Rafah. Then you had the video conference about Rafah. The information came out. It was productive, constructive, but not so constructive and productive that they didn't need a follow-up meeting. We knew Biden's a call between Biden and Netanyahu was going to occur. And there was the hope that that was the moment that Biden was really going to say, this has to change. Because of the added pressure on top of the famine, the added pressure when it comes to World Central Kitchen. The call occurred. The first statement from the White House came out. It mainly focused on what the U.S. said, not a lot on how it was received by Netanyahu. You can't trust the first statements, ever. There's more information that is going to come out, and you can tell a little bit more as things move along. It wasn't long after that National Security Council spokesperson Kirby came out, and he said that they, quote, hope to see announcements of changes in the coming hours or days. I mean, that's confidence. I was going
to say, that's a mighty bold statement, especially considering the fact that, in my opinion, Israel has been playing us. They are no different than MAGA. They know the guns come from us, the missiles come from us, the drones come from us. Their ability to commit this genocide is hugely helped by us. And all they have to do to keep them coming is to say, all right, we'll consider it. All right, we'll deal with it later. Later never comes. So for John Kirby to say hours or days, that's good. I don't trust it till I see it anymore. Early on, I tried to give the Biden administration as much leeway as I could, because I understood that Joe Biden's way of negotiating, while I didn't approve of it, it had been effective. It had worked out. But no, it clearly doesn't work here. And B, no matter what we end up getting out of this, the price was too high. After a week, the price was too high. All right, moving on before I get sad.
That suggests that Biden might have used a lot of that leverage. I would imagine the part that the public never gets to hear would be Biden saying something like, what makes you think we're going to veto that French resolution? Because that would definitely get Netanyahu's attention. Something like that. It would be something big to instill this level of confidence, unless Netanyahu's team had already called and said, okay, we're going to do some stuff. Shortly thereafter, the news started really coming out. Netanyahu and the cabinet over there have agreed to open the gate in the north. The gate in the north to allow aid in. This would allow direct access to the most heavily impacted areas, the areas where the U.S. says that famine is probably present.
Understand that if the U.S. is not, let me change those words a little bit, where the U.S. admits that famine is probably present. The U.S., and I realize I'm criticizing somebody who is doing what we, supposedly doing what we want, but I just want the wording to be accurate here. The U.S. has run its own propaganda to make this seem like it's anything other than what it is. We have been told by world organizations repeatedly that starvation is happening, particularly in Rafah. That's where people are clustered, trying to survive the genocide. So if the U.S. is admitting that starvation is probably present there, That's huge. Also, we've seen the pictures. It's the age of cell phones. I've looked at too many children's ribs. Too many. The penance I do is every day I don't talk about Gaza, I look at more dead Gazans. It's probably pretty effed up. But that's what I feel I have to do. Same reason I touch my hand to my forehead when I pass a dead animal on the side of the road and think, I must acknowledge that it happened. I must see it. I don't recommend you guys do. Great way to get just swallowed up by the darkness of depression. But the point being, we've seen this. We have the video evidence. So words like the U.S. says they believe this is happening, it means they admit that it is happening. When the U.S. says that Israel must protect civilians, they mean stop murdering civilians. Protect them from who? What they mean is stop killing those civilians. That's what they mean. That language is tricky. I'm not even blaming Bo here. He's talking about it in the terms they're talked about in the United States. I just want to be clear about what that all means.
And they agreed to give Jordan access to a port to basically flood the area with food. Realistically, this is good news, but it's just an announcement. The U.S. response to this was basically great, but, well, it needs to, quote, must now be fully and rapidly implemented. The announcement isn't enough.
Good.
And it's worth noting, I can guarantee you, this is not all they asked for. This is not all that was spoken about. I would guess there's stuff about Rafah in there as well. Now, as long as no games are played and that gate gets opened, they don't, talk about security concerns or whatever, this stands a really good chance of stopping the situation in the north from spiraling out of control to the worst case scenarios. And to be clear on that, the numbers that we've talked about on the channel that are in the tens of thousands, those are not the worst case scenarios. The worst case scenarios are they're really bad. So that's where it sits right now. There's been movement. How effective it's going to be, we have to wait and see. But the conversation certainly appeared to have an impact. How big and how long that impact lasts is yet to be determined. There are 3 real quick questions about this that we're going to go through right now. One is that, Biden keeps talking about an offensive into Rafah. They're already doing stuff in Rafah. An operation and an offensive are not the same thing. What's going on now, the raids going in and stuff like that, those are operations. My guess is that, well, I know the Biden administration is okay with those. My guess is that they're actually encouraging them because those are lower footprint when you are talking about civilian loss. An offensive is a major offensive, something that would realistically in Rafah send hundreds of thousands of people fleeing into areas with no infrastructure. If that occurs, the humanitarian situation would be almost impossible to deal with, if not impossible. If they launch an offensive into Rafah, there's not going to be any mistaking it. So it's use of military terms that may be getting lost in the coverage. Another one is, why isn't Biden pointing out the the delivery dates when he takes criticism about the recent arms transfers. We talked about this on the channel more than once. The whole point of slow walking delivery of military aid, if you believe your ally is about to do something that's just a really, really bad idea, the whole point of slow walking it is so there's not a record of you doing it. When we talked about it, I think I said something like, Biden could address it via priorities. So, you know, we've got Ukraine, we've got Taiwan, we have our own needs, and the political winds just aren't with you right now. So don't worry, we'll get you your stuff. It's just going to take a little bit of time.
When we talk long term on this channel, when we talk about actually getting a progressive in the White House, which I want to stress again, less important than getting a fully progressive, either Democratic Party or whatever you want to call the party of progressives in the House and Senate. But when we talk about that golden day, when we finally fully win this country, it's that kind of nonsense which I envision going away. That's my hope for having a progressive there. When you talk to a foreign leader, speak honestly. You have strength. You say, we're not giving you these, not because, oh, this excuse, that excuse, which, I mean, he's right. That's the way it's done. That is the way it's done. Now, that's the way it has been done, always. We've never had a progressive. Closest we came was FDR. Never had a progressive in the White House. I would prefer to have a strong leader who speaks honestly, who is forthright with our allies and our enemies, and says, we are not giving you these weapons because we don't like what you do with them. We will have nothing to do with this slaughter. And I don't need to do kabuki theater about it, because we're honest about our intentions with you, with our constituents, and within our own hearts. That's what I want.
The whole point of doing it that way is to not put it out there that when your ally requests something, you're not giving it to them. So for that to be effective, he just has to take the criticism. It's not fair, I guess, but it's foreign policy. Nothing about this is fair. That's the reason he's not pointing it out. It's also worth noting that some of that's just the way it is. Like when it comes to the planes that won't be there for years.
Well, because you can't.
That's the normal time frame. There's some other stuff that have.
Quick explanation for that. Just not saying agree or disagree, but like think of Ukraine when we talked about giving them planes. You could give them planes and say, all right, defend yourselves. You know what? Ukraine's amazing. They learn how to use things fast. How quickly could you learn how to fly any plane? Now imagine a fighter jet. You're a foot soldier. All right, learn how to fly this billion-dollar killing machine. Now learn how to fly it well enough that you can go into combat against other planes. Just a matter of practicality. So that's not a matter of Biden getting points or not getting points. That's just the state of what handing planes to allies looks like. It takes a long time. Hopefully longer than this genocide continues, because I do not want them getting U.S. air superiority, U.S.-style air superiority.
That's been requested and approved, that's taking months to get there. Sure, maybe that's a legitimate shortfall, but in most cases, a lot of the stuff that's taking months to get there could be there in less than a day. I think it is possible that some of it is him slow walking it, but we'll never know. I mean, not until long afterward. It's possible, but we don't know that. And then the last one is, why isn't Biden pushing for an immediate permanent ceasefire? Because when he's saying ceasefire, if you don't know, he's talking about a temporary one. This is something we've talked about since early on. Biden and that foreign policy team, they are not going for a ceasefire. All of this started during a ceasefire. They're angling for a peace. All of their moves are angling for a peace, and one that includes a Palestinian state.
So this is a great example of what we were talking about earlier. Remember when I said that I don't agree with the way Biden does things and that the cost was too high? This. I agree with the long-term goal here, as they call it, a two-state solution. I know there's some debate. Should it be one state wherein Palestinians are supposed to have guaranteed rights, but their president is Netanyahu, or their leader is Netanyahu? Or two-state solution where Palestine is finally recognized as a state. I'm a two-state solution person. That's where I am now. I could be easily swayed because, I don't have a degree in nothing relevant. But regardless, the way in which this has been approached has required the deaths of just football stadiums full of people that had nothing to do with it, that needn't have died. And that's not okay. That being said, this would be a good thing. Again, not worth the price paid. Again, requiring consequences in the United States for those that allowed it to happen, including Biden. I would like us to have memorials to our political failures put up. I would like to see a statue of Joe Biden failing to confront Netanyahu, covered in the names of the civilians he allowed to be killed with weapons bought and manufactured in the United States. But I also want to see Palestine allowed to be its own state and not to be an open-air prison like it has been, under the control of a far-right extremist government whose goal has always been to exterminate those people who live in Palestine.
That's where they're going. That's what all of their foreign policy moves indicate. The concern, I think, from the Biden team is that if they get a permanent ceasefire, then there's less urgency to get a peace deal. That's my guess. I don't know that, and that is not something that has been said. But if I had to guess what the reluctance was to support a permanent ceasefire, it's that. Because they're angling for a peace. They're angling for a long-term solution, not just a permanent ceasefire that just reinforces the status quo before the 7th, and honestly, basically guarantees another giant cycle. I personally believe that you could have a ceasefire now and work out the peace. I believe that's possible. That doesn't look like what the administration believes. But if I had to guess, the reluctance is because they're not angling to just return to the status quo. They're going for a peace. They're going for a peace plan. That's what all of the moves with the Palestinian Authority and all of the different talks about regional security forces. It's not for a short-term ceasefire. Because understand, a permanent ceasefire, it's an oxymoron. That's not a thing. If it was a permanent ceasefire, it would be a peace with very, very few exceptions.
Yeah, I think I largely agree with Bo of the Fifth Column's opinions there, right at the end especially. It makes sense that is something that the Biden administration wants. I would put this forward. If he and I can look at what the Biden administration is doing and come to the conclusion that they are working on a more long-term deal for stability in the region, which involves a two-state solution. Do you think that the Netanyahu government didn't already see that? So between whenever the Biden administration makes its attempt to get this and now, what's the Netanyahu government doing? They're slaughtering civilians. They're tracking members of Hamas and passing on opportunities to kill them immediately. Instead, they're tracking them until they go home and then bombing the building they're in. So they take out a whole slew of civilians. And they can say, oh, human shields. Shame. I don't know that no, there's always things we can do. I don't know what it is, if I'm honest with you, right now, regarding the path Biden is taking, except to say, keep voting uncommitted. That has had a big effect on the way the Biden administration behaves. They realize we understand what's going on. They always knew this was the way it was going to be. They just thought that we were the America of a generation past. They thought we were going to turn a blind eye to the death of folks who are brown. That's what they thought. The uncommitted votes have shown them otherwise and scared the hell out of them, rightly so. Keep it up. We got more elections coming. And in doing so, that's more opportunities to put pressure on Joe Biden. Great suggestion from WirelesMike. I do appreciate that breakdown. I think Bo of the Fifth Column has a useful view on international politics. Thank you for the suggestion, Mike. Got a question for one person in particular. I hope she's still here. Let me do the ad. Nadia, if you're still here, sound off. I'll see in about 30 seconds. So just say hi in the comments real quick. I got a question for you specifically. And I'll do the lead up to it, so that hopefully I can be a little smooth with this transition. Just this. I suspect, Nadia, that you're ill-served by your old pal Jake. I mean, I think we probably have the same broad political goals. Even if we don't agree on the specifics, whatever. I think largely, when I go to a protest, I'm going to see somebody to my left and to my right who agrees with your politics. That's the kind of person who I want to do What You Can Do segments for. Now, I already got a lot of folks in this here channel who I'm doing segments for. I have them in mind when I'm trying to think of what will I cover and how will I cover it and what plans will I come up with that, the average folks can actually participate in, while they're also trying to live their lives and trying to build a life. But I have a nose for when I'm not addressing the topics or of somebody, or I'm not addressing the topics in a way that's useful to them. So if you're still here, let's see. I'm not seeing anything. But if you are still here, and on the assumption that Nadia has gone to do something else, that's fine. Nobody's obligated to sit through the whole show. But if you are still here, or if you're somebody who feels that you've got a suggestion like this, what is a topic that you would like to see me cover? What is a problem that you want a solution for? You've seen other people talk about the problem and acknowledge that the problem exists, but not offer a solution for. I'm not saying I have one now. I'm saying I've got a child's birthday party to attend this weekend. Hey, by the way, I will try to do a show tomorrow, but assume that I won't, because I'm driving to Ohio, and I will have to pretend to be a dinosaur for about 5 hours. I will be chasing a little boy around a backyard. So when I get back, I might just fall asleep. But the point being, I'll have plenty of time to think about what I'm going to do next. The thing I want to do next, Nadia, is address topics you personally care about. You might never come back to this channel. I hope you do. But even so, I want to address a topic you care about, because if you're here, that means people like you will come by from time to time. And whoever it is you are, I want to appeal to those groups. Purpose of this channel is to come up with plans, is to provide for you guys reasonable action that you can take. I don't mean reasonable as in not ruffling feathers. I mean reasonable as in you can pull it off with the energy you have left at the end of a brutal American workday, or Canadian workday, or any, frankly, English-speaking country workday. It's rough times to be anybody but a billionaire in this world. So I want to come up with plans that don't require you chain yourself to something for a week. So let me know. Drop it in the comments. Let me know what I can do. Tamara Chance deporting Elon Musk. Oh, yes. Not out of the... Look, I don't know about actually getting him deported, but with Elon Musk, absolutely. Absolutely. Environmental Coffee House. Love Nadia. Yeah, she's great. She's great. And you know what? Maybe I'll do, because she's definitely over at your channel quite a bit. Maybe I'll do a few more environment-related activities. Now, I will say the vast majority of what I've done over the last couple of months has just been focused on the 2024 election, because that's a hell of a lot of birds with just but one stone. A whole lot of things change for the better if we have a blue House, Senate, and White House, and it's plausible. It is a plausible scenario that we could get that. But there's things we can do in the immediate as well. There's local policies we could get passed. We could have solar panels installed on every business in your town. There's plenty we can do. But if you're the sort of person that feels I haven't addressed something that you want done, let me know. We got a live show just about every day, although last 2 weeks were not great examples of that. We have very frequent live shows every day but Sunday. Stop by, let me know, or write me at whatyoucando at wycdnetwork.com. In the meantime, y'all, I had a blast hanging out with you today. Had a ton of folks donate. That was super, super lovely of you. I appreciate it. New members, hello. Obsolete Optics, Excessive Audio. Morbius Dragon, hello to all of you. It's been a pleasure. I will see you next time. This has been WYCD Network. Then WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. My name's Jake. This is Donald James X.